So thanks for being here. As Adam said, in 2010 I was able to predict 35 of the 37 gubernatorial races, and then last year in 2014 it was 34 of the 36 races, and on an average of 4 months out this time, 3 months out last time. The reason for that is there's a target effect on the voter. And so we were able to look and profile different candidates and see what their target effect would eventually be on the voters when they started to really ramp up their, with the debates and getting visuals in front of the candidates. So no matter how the polls went, we were able to say standard in terms of what our prediction would be. And the reason why that's important in business is we have those target effects in business, right? Whether we're getting an interview, whether we're selling to somebody, whether we're making a presentation, all these things are affected greatly by how we appear, both in our appearance, in our body language, and how we, if we can, set the environment. And so we're going to look at all three of those things here today. Now, another thing I want to talk about here, if you look at, in 2002, George Bush was able to beat John Kerry, and a lot of people were confused. And in 2012, President Obama, beat Mitt Romney, and people were confused. And you know why both won? Because you may or may not have agreed with them. But with Bush and Obama, you knew what they were saying they believed. And with Kerry and Romney, nobody was necessarily sure that what they said they believed. And so when you're in an interaction with someone, you will leak your nonverbal behavior, unconscious behavior, will give away that your words, right, and your body language are not congruent or transparent. And so people, they won't know why, but they'll feel confused and want to withdraw from that interaction. But if they are congruent, they're going to believe you and want to be a part of that interaction with you. So more important than anything else that we'll talk about today is if you are honest and transparent, that's the most important piece of any of nonverbal communication. So one of the things that we know is that people will make decisions instinctually and emotionally and then justify them with reason. Right, so we'll go out, really, you only need a car with 4 wheels, right? But people will buy a car emotionally and then justify why they need to have all these added features, right? So as I said, we're going to look at appearance, environment, and body language. Okay, so let's take a look at appearance first. Here, you're going to see President Obama, and this is his first State of the Union. Now what we notice here is that the president has this kind of blue tie on, which would indicate kind of this future-based thinking. And then you see Joe Biden with a striped tie on, and wearing a striped tie with a leader wearing a solid tie suggests deference to the leader. And then John Boehner has a pink tie on, and Republican messages often can come across as aggressive, but pink will soften that message. And so let's fast forward, right, 7 years to last January, and the president's 7th State of the Union. And what do you see? Joe Biden wearing a striped tie, the president wearing his future-based tie, and John Boehner wearing a pink tie. And if you look at all the State of the Unions in between, it's very similar. There was one time that Joe Biden wore a solid tie, and I think he was just confused on his way. He didn't get the memo necessarily for that day. Now, one of the things that we know is for men, right, it's the tie that is the message. And for women, it's the whole outfit. And I also want to say I am not a fashion expert. And so what I'm going to talk about today are what's important with persuasion. So these are, if you want to persuade people, these are the things you want to use, okay? And in terms of fashion, that's a completely different animal, and I would let other people deal with that. Now, this picture here, how many people are familiar with this story? Right. So this is the host of the Today Show in Australia. And his counterpart was a woman. And she was getting a lot of flack for all the outfits that she was wearing. And so what he decided to do was wear the same suit every day for a year and only change his tie, and no one noticed. So again, for men, it's easier with the tie. It can be more difficult for women, but when a woman gets it, no man is really going to beat her. So if you look at, again, persuasion, let's take a look at Hillary Clinton. Right? People don't necessarily notice how, especially in politics, people will wear, women especially, will wear the same color suit, and it's the full suit, and the color is the message that they want to communicate. And so for the purpose of this presentation, we're just going to take a look at and compare two colors, maroon and red. Okay? So here you see the tie is maroon, and with Hillary Clinton, you see the maroon outfit. Now, if we compare that, now the maroon is very much a credibility color. And so if you watch some of the Sunday shows or talking heads on the news, you're going to see that they're going to have a white or a light blue shirt and a maroon tie, right? Or a maroon outfit. And here, if you want to look at red, right, which is a brighter color, and it's more about attraction. And you see Hillary Clinton wearing the bright red outfit. Now let's compare the two. You can see the difference, but also when she wants to be credible, she doesn't wear lipstick. When she wants to be attractive, she's got the bright lipstick as well. So these things are, they don't decide this. Their people decide this, right? Because they're trying to figure out the message for that event. Now, one of the things, if we look at, every ex-president or current president in the television age, Kennedy, Johnson, Nixon, Carter, Reagan, Bush 41, Clinton, Bush 43, and President Obama, when the message is important and they need to come across as credible, they're going to wear this. One of the questions I often get, well, okay, that's America. What about the rest of the world? Well, unless you're Muammar Gaddafi, right, who wears all these different outfits, if you're a world leader and the message is important, you're going to wear the important uniform. Okay? So now let's talk a little bit about environment. And what's important to know about environment is you can control so many things about the environment, whether it's sound, whether it's smell, whether it's color, whether it's the furniture, whether it's movable or it's not movable. And you can predict outcomes based on how you negotiate or are able to set up that environment. How many people have driven by a McDonald's and smelled the fries? Right. Now, do you think that in 2015 we have the technology today to have filters to block that smell? Right. They want that smell to go out because there's a certain amount of people who will drive by and go in and buy the fries. That's why it's there. They're controlling the environment as much as they can. The other thing about fast food restaurants is as much as they want you to come in, they also want you to get out. So they have plastic furniture, and the seats are often 10 degrees ahead because they don't necessarily want you to be comfortable, and they want you to move through. Now, during the Vietnam War, or as it was ending, they had peace negotiations. Now, before the peace negotiations even started, it took 8 months to negotiate the type of table and the seating. Why? Because both realized that in a negotiation, where people sit and the type of table that's used can greatly affect the outcome. So let's take a look at where a leader would sit. If we look here, people will often say, oh, 3 or 1 or 5. Well, actually, it's both. If you want to come across as a socially intelligent leader, you're going to go with number 3. If you need it to deliver an authoritative message, it's going to be 1 or 5. Now, if we look here, right, we look here, and there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The leader wants to sit at 4 or 5. Why? Because there's more eyes on that person. And so people will be more deferential to people sitting in those positions. But what's interesting, And what people, if you need to set up a table where people are going to be observing, or debates where there's multiple candidates, the observers will also see 4 or 5 as the leader. And so that's important in terms of negotiating and voters. Now in the US, everybody kind of gets that. In foreign countries, it's usually only the candidate who can afford to hire US-based consultants. And so people are wondering why they want 4 or 5, and they get it. So that we touched on the environment. Now let's take a look at body language, okay? Now what I said before, your nonverbal communication needs to be congruent with your words. If it is not, it doesn't matter what you do, the unconscious messages that you will send will create confusion with the person or people that you're interacting with. And they're going to want to withdraw from that situation. I know I said that before, and I want to hit that home because it's an extremely important point. If we look here, as I said, words convey reason, but body language conveys instinct and emotion. And this is what people will give more credibility to, right? When they're judging you as a person. Now, there's 7 messages that are communicated non-verbally: credibility and openness. And then there's superiority, disinterest, insecurity, defensiveness, and deceit. Now, when I was a student here, I used to watch for that in my professors. And now, as I teach here, I look for it in my students. And the interesting thing is, both deliver both the credibility and openness, and then also the bottom ones as well. Now, if you look at these 2 politicians again, Christine Gregoire, the one on the left, is she had been the governor of the state of Washington. And one of the things I did when I looked at all my developing the algorithm to predict the elections, I've watched every single debate, gubernatorial debate that's taken place in the United States since 1998. And so she is probably the best, right? Or one of the very best. And then, of course, the president as well is one of the best. But what I want to show you is some of the things that they do, right, that amplify their congruent message. So if you see the top part, the top picture, which they're both doing, this is this from the heart gesture. It's not coming out at somebody or being aggressive. It's saying, how dare you, versus how dare you. And you feel the different emotions that are communicated with those behaviors. The next is an authoritative but not aggressive, finger and thumb together. We should absolutely do it this way versus we should absolutely do it this way. The next, and what you'll find is that, winning politicians or winning business people will never do this with their hands. When they're at rest, and watch for this, they will pretend that they're holding a ball. Right? This is where, and I know everybody do this for a second. It can feel uncomfortable, but once you do it a number of times and you become unconsciously competent, it communicates the message that you know what you're talking about and you have a master of the subject. And then the next is whether it's 2 hands or 1, this chopping gesture, and you don't want to do that in the beginning, but you want to do that at the end of your interaction once you've built some rapport, which allows you to suggest that you know what you're talking about and this is the way we should move forward, versus creating a barrier. I absolutely think this is the way we need to go, versus I absolutely think this is the way we need to go. And you feel the difference. So I do want to talk a little bit about 2016. And first, before I go there, I'm going to tell you about a mistake I made in 2012. So as I said, I'd watched all the gubernatorial debates since 1998. And of the people on the Republican side, I thought John Huntsman would be the person who would be the next president of the United States. And, the president was also a little bit concerned, so he sent him to China as the ambassador. But he did come back to run. But what I didn't realize is that what it takes to win the nomination and what it takes to win the general election are 2 separate things. And so the nomination is more about who you know, and the general election is more about how you communicate. So let's look at 2016. And I would say, having looked at, and I'll give you this prediction, is that looking at Jeb Bush, Hillary Clinton, and all the other jokers who seem to be running, and I will say that if Jeb Bush is able to secure the nomination, he'll clear the field and be the next president of the United States. If he's not able to secure the nomination, Hillary Clinton could probably beat any other Republican candidate. Okay? But if Jeb Bush wins, I think it's over, unless you know. And I will make the caveat, unless they see pictures of him with in compromising positions that he shouldn't necessarily be in. So that's what I have to say today. Thank you very much.